Afghanistan and New Zealand playing a one-off test in India in a stadium in Greater Noida, in fact not too far away from the country's capital, Delhi. India offering their venue to Afghanistan, who cannot host any cricket back home. And it would have been quite the sight had the match started as scheduled to on Monday, 9th of September, that was yesterday. We are at the end of day 2 and still not a single ball has been bowled. Now we hear teams didn't even leave their hotels to get to the stadium today for a while. By the end of the day, Afghanistan did not leave their hotel rooms. Why? The outfield was too wet and damp for any play to even happen, for even the toss to take place. Yes, there were no showers in those parts yesterday, but unprecedented rains over the weekend in the northern cities, so much so that the whole ground has been covered in puddles. It just highlighted the lack of facilities in the Greater Noida Stadium. Now, picture this, the rains were obviously too much for the teams to even practice or train before the start of the test. In fact, they did try, and one of the Afghanistan bowlers, a key player in their 11, Ibrahim Zadran, got injured. He twisted his ankle during a fielding drill. On Monday, that's yesterday, you witnessed very few parts, just the center of the ground actually covered, and with tents and tarps that had been rented from a tent house. Table fans, that's right, if you don't believe me, you'll see those pictures there. Table fans were being used to dry up patches of the outfield. There were multiple inspections scheduled right through the day. In fact, players from both the teams were seen coming out to assess the conditions and showed their displeasure. Tim Southee, Rachin Ravindran and Mitchell Santner from the New Zealand camp came out. Jonathan Trott, who's of course the head coach of Afghanistan, and of course Kane Williamson of the New Zealand side, both not pleased with the situation at hand. And with players already wary of getting injured playing in these wet conditions, the start of play got pushed to day 2, that's today. Not something either teams would have wanted. And the situation was no better even on day 2. Toss got delayed earlier today as well. If table fans startled you on day 1, you got to see this. Groundsmen were seen digging up sections, big sections of the ground, pulling out wet earth, filling it with dry soil and putting grass cover on it. That's not good. Definitely not the kind of ground you play an international test match on, any cricket for that matter. Just too shoddy and could prove to be dangerous. The run-up, as it is, was wet. Despite 5 super soppers being used, the progress was negligible because play couldn't happen. In fact, most of the groundsmen employed, 20 to 25 of them, including 15 outsourced workers, were seen trying their best to get this going and get the ground match ready. All of this clearly pointing to one thing: lack of proper infrastructure and facilities at the ground. Getting internet meme makers very, very active. So why was this ground the option? And did the BCCI not think this through? Let me attempt to answer these questions here. There are matches being played at many other venues across the country currently, domestic matches, but matches nonetheless. Plus, this was the ground that Afghanistan had been given to train in the earlier years. So maybe the BCCI felt that they could persist with this stadium for the one-off test too against New Zealand, without realizing how inadequate this was proving to be. Sure, these showers have been unprecedented, untimely, but a ground needs to be prepared for any circumstances, particularly rains. The drainage system clearly took a beating. Maybe the match should have been rescheduled, knowing the kind of weather Delhi had been subjected to in the run-up to this test. Afghanistan, in fact, has been hoping to play this test. Here's a country that has hardly played test cricket over the years since they came to be, all of just 10 test matches. They can't play any international match at home, so for them this was important. For New Zealand too, this was a key warm-up to their series that's coming up against Sri Lanka, and of course the big one against India that's scheduled later. Both teams are clearly miffed with what has turned out to be a bit of a damp affair, dampening their spirits too, even as we all wait to see what day 3 will bring.